Imagine waking up to find out that the drone you've built your business around is about to be banned. Not because of a recall or a product failure, just because of politics. Aerial cinematography has reshaped modern visual storytelling. What once required helicopters, cranes, and large production budgets became accessible to individual creators. Independent filmmakers, wedding videographers, and YouTube creators suddenly gained access to sweeping establishing shots, dramatic tracking sequences, and dynamic overhead perspectives. The cost barrier collapsed. Founded in 2006 in China, DJI has become the dominant force in this transformation. Over the last decade, they controlled a majority share of the global consumer and professional drone market. Products such as the Phantom series, the Mavic Pro line, the Air and Mini platforms, and the high-end systems like the Inspire became standard equipment for creators. These drones offered stabilized 4, 5, and 6K video, obstacle avoidance, automated flight paths, intelligent tracking, and compact folding designs. The democratization of aerial imaging altered the grammar of filmmaking. Drone shots had now become common in television, advertising, sports, and independent film. Small production crews could achieve cinematic scale without large infrastructure. In many industries, drones became routine tools rather than exotic technology. Yet, as DJI expanded its global footprint, geopolitical tensions between the United States and China intensified. Concerns emerged about data security, telemetry transmission, software architecture, and potential vulnerabilities in network-connected devices. See, drones are not just simple cameras. They're airborne computers. They're equipped with GPS, radio, and data storage systems. This has raised national security concerns in government circles. The story shifted from cinematic innovation to regulatory scrutiny. Creators who were dependent on DJI equipment found themselves following congressional hearings and federal announcements alongside product launch events. The first significant concern emerged in 2017 when the United States Army reportedly issued a memo halting the operational use of DJI drones due to security concerns. Around the same time, the Department of Homeland Security released a warning that certain foreign manufactured drones might be transmitting sensitive flight data to servers outside the United States. In 2019, Congress passed provisions within the National Defense Authorization Act that restricted the Department of Defense from procuring Chinese-manufactured drones. The Department of the Interior grounded its fleet of hundreds of drones, many of which were DJI units, pending cybersecurity review. In December of 2020, the United States Department of Commerce added DJI to the Entity List. Placement on the Entity List restricts a company's access to certain United States technologies and components. DJI has publicly denied the allegations connected to that designation. In 2023, Congress passed legislation referred to as the American Security Drone Act. The law required a national security review of certain foreign drone manufacturers by December 23, 2025. If no review occurred, federal agencies were required to treat those companies as presenting national security risks. According to the ABJ Academy timeline and industry reporting, no completed audit was publicly released by the deadline. On December 23, 2025, the Federal Communications Commission placed foreign-produced unmanned aircraft systems, including DJI, on its covered list. Equipment on the covered list cannot receive new FCC equipment authorization required for legal sale or importation in the United States. The restriction applies to new models seeking approval after that date. Previously authorized DJI drones remain legal to own and operate under Federal Aviation Administration rules. Multiple media outlets reported on this action, including coverage discussing DJI's legal response and challenges to the FCC's authority. For working creators, the key issue is operational legality. As of February 2026, drones that were previously authorized by the FCC before December 23, 2025, remain lawful to own and fly. There is no blanket federal flight ban on existing DJI drones under FAA rules. The Federal Aviation Administration governs flight operations. Commercial operators must hold a Part 107 remote pilot certificate. Recreational pilots must follow the FAA recreational guidelines. All applicable operators must comply with remote ID requirements, aircraft registration rules, airspace authorization procedures, and altitude and safety limitations. The FCC action focuses on equipment authorization and sale rather than grounding existing aircraft. However, secondary effects may influence the market. Retail availability of new DJI drones within the United States has become restricted. Future firmware updates and long-term servicing support may be affected depending on corporate decisions and supply chain constraints. For cinematographers working on federal contracts or projects funded by government grants, additional procurement rules apply. Certain contracts prohibit the use of specific foreign manufactured equipment. Public safety agencies and infrastructure operators have already transitioned away from DJI platforms due to federal funding requirements. Private sector filmmakers and independent creators continue operating existing DJI platforms within FAA regulations. Many production companies are now evaluating alternative manufacturers from the United States or allied nations to reduce the long-term uncertainty. This regulatory shift introduces strategic planning considerations. Equipment investment cycles in production environments often span several years. Professionals must evaluate resale value, service support, regulatory risk, and client requirements before committing to future drone purchases. As of February 2026, drone compliance in the United States requires attention to 3 layers. First, operational compliance under FAA regulations remains unchanged. Pilots must maintain proper registration, ensure remote ID broadcasting capability, secure airspace authorization where required, and follow Part 107 or recreational rules depending on use case. Second, equipment authorization under FCC rules affects new drone purchases. Equipment placed on the FCC covered list cannot receive new authorization for sale or importation. Buyers should verify FCC authorization status before purchasing new aircraft within the United States market. Third, contractual and procurement compliance matters for those working with government agencies or federally funded entities. Contracts may contain clauses restricting use of equipment from certain manufacturers. Careful review of contract language is essential. DJI has initiated legal action challenging the aspects of the FCC's decision. They're arguing procedural concerns and questioning statutory authority. The outcome of ongoing litigation may influence future regulatory adjustments. At present, aerial cinematography continues. Existing DJI drones remain legal to operate under FAA frameworks. The regulatory environment emphasizes procurement and authorization restrictions rather than prohibiting flight of previously approved aircraft. Creators who remain informed, maintain regulatory compliance, and plan equipment investment strategically will continue producing aerial content without interruption. The drone industry remains active, competitive, and technologically advanced. Policy decisions influence procurement pathways, but the creative potential of aerial cinematography persists. And that's the end of this episode. We thank you for taking the time to watch. If you learned something new, be sure to subscribe. While you watch, Balance Point creates.